ask for permission before it falls apart. One phone call, one failure, one unexpected setback, and suddenly, the future you were building feels like it's slipping through your hands. In moments like these, most people believe they have a motivation problem. But they don't. They have a focus problem, because when everything around you is falling apart, your greatest enemy isn't failure, it's distraction. It's fear. It's the endless noise telling you to quit, to panic, or to give up on the person you wanted to become. The people we admire aren't the ones who never faced chaos. They're the ones who learned how to keep moving while the storm was still raging. Today, we're going to discover why focus is more powerful than motivation, why purpose matters most when life feels uncertain, and how you can keep taking the next step, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. There comes a moment in almost everyone's life when reality refuses to match the plans we worked so hard to create. We imagine that if we work enough, prepare enough, and care enough, life will reward us with certainty. But life has never promised certainty. It has only promised change. The difficult part is that change rarely asks whether we're ready. It arrives unexpectedly, disrupting routines, testing relationships, challenging careers, and forcing us to face situations we never wanted to experience. Our first instinct is usually resistance. We ask, why is this happening to me? We replay the situation again and again, searching for a different outcome that no longer exists. We spend valuable energy wishing reality were different instead of understanding what reality actually is. That resistance feels natural because accepting what has happened can feel like giving up. But acceptance and surrender are not the same thing. Surrender says, there's nothing I can do. Acceptance says, this is where I am, and now I can decide what comes next. Think about how much energy is wasted fighting facts that cannot be changed. A missed opportunity cannot be recovered by pretending it never happened. A mistake cannot be erased by denying it. A difficult season does not disappear because we refuse to acknowledge it. Reality remains the same whether we accept it or not. The only thing that changes is how much emotional strength we lose by refusing to face it. The strongest people are not those who avoid painful moments. They are the ones who look directly at those moments without allowing them to define who they are. They understand that every challenge begins with seeing the truth clearly. Before you can solve a problem, you must first admit that it exists. Before you can rebuild your life, you must first recognize what has fallen apart. This is one of the hardest lessons because our emotions often tell us a different story. Fear tells us to run. Pride tells us to pretend everything is fine. Regret tells us to keep looking backward. But none of those emotions change the situation. They only delay the moment when growth can begin. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. You can scream at the wind, complain about the rain, or wish for clear skies. None of those reactions stop the storm. The wiser response is to understand the weather you're facing and decide how you're going to move through it. The same principle applies to life. Reality is not asking for your approval. It is asking for your response. Many people confuse optimism with pretending everything is okay. True optimism is much stronger than that. It is the ability to face uncomfortable truths while believing that your future is still worth fighting for. It does not ignore hardship. It acknowledges hardship without allowing hardship to become your identity. Acceptance also requires honesty with yourself. It means admitting when a plan no longer works. It means recognizing when you've made mistakes instead of blaming everyone else. It means understanding that some chapters of your life have ended, even if you weren't ready for them to end. That honesty can be uncomfortable, but discomfort often becomes the doorway to clarity. The moment you stop arguing with reality, your mind becomes available for something far more productive. Instead of asking, why did this happen? You begin asking, what can I learn from this? Instead of saying, this shouldn't be happening, you begin asking, what is this moment asking me to become? Those questions create movement. They transform pain into perspective and confusion into direction. Every meaningful transformation starts with accepting the truth, no matter how difficult that truth may be. Athletes study their losses before they improve their performance. Leaders acknowledge mistakes before they rebuild trust. Successful people examine failures instead of hiding them. Growth has always belonged to those willing to face reality without excuses. There is a quiet strength in saying, this is difficult, but this is real. Those words remove the pressure of pretending. They free you from carrying the impossible burden of controlling everything. Once you stop fighting the facts, You gain the freedom to influence the future. You cannot change yesterday, but you can change the decisions you make today. Acceptance is not about lowering your expectations or abandoning your dreams. It is about building those dreams on a foundation of truth instead of illusion. A builder cannot create a strong structure without first understanding the condition of the ground. In the same way, you cannot create a better future until you understand the reality of your present. Life has a remarkable way of teaching us that control is often an illusion. We cannot control every event, every person, or every outcome. What we can control is our willingness to respond with courage instead of denial. That choice may seem small, but it changes everything. It shifts your attention from what has already happened to what is still possible. The people who continue moving forward are rarely the ones with the easiest lives. More often, they are the ones who stopped wasting energy fighting battles that had already ended. They accepted the loss, accepted the setback, accepted the uncertainty, and then directed every remaining ounce of energy toward building the next chapter. They understood that reality is not their enemy. Reality is simply the starting point from which every meaningful comeback begins. When life begins to fall apart, one of the first things people lose is not their confidence, their money, or even their opportunities. They lose sight of why they started in the first place. The pressure of daily struggles becomes so overwhelming that survival replaces purpose. Every day feels like a battle just to get through the next 24 hours. In that state, it's easy to forget the dream that once filled you with excitement, the vision that once made every sacrifice feel worthwhile. This is why your why matters more during difficult seasons than during successful ones. When everything is going well, almost anyone can stay committed. Success creates momentum. Progress creates excitement. Recognition creates motivation. But when nothing seems to be working, external rewards disappear. The only thing that keeps you moving is an internal reason that is stronger than your circumstances. Your why is not simply a goal. Goals can change. They can be achieved, replaced, or even abandoned. Your why is deeper than that. It is the reason you care about the goal. It is the belief that gives meaning to your effort. It answers the question that every difficult moment asks, why should I keep going? Imagine two people climbing the same mountain. They face the same weather, the same steep paths, and the same exhaustion. One climbs because someone else told them it would look impressive. The other climbs because reaching the top represents a promise they made to themselves years ago. When the storm becomes stronger, the first person begins looking for excuses to stop. The second person remembers the promise that brought them there. The challenge may be identical, but the reason behind the climb changes everything. Many people spend years chasing success without ever asking themselves why they want it. They pursue promotions because others expect them to. They build businesses because they see someone else doing it. They compare their progress with people they don't even know. Eventually, they discover that borrowed dreams create borrowed motivation. The moment life becomes difficult, those dreams lose their power because they were never deeply connected to who they truly are. Your purpose cannot be borrowed from someone else's life. It has to come from your own experiences, your own values, and your own vision for the future. That purpose becomes an anchor when uncertainty tries to pull you away from your direction. It reminds you that your current struggle is part of a larger story instead of the entire story. Think back to a time when you were genuinely inspired. Chances are it wasn't because someone promised an easy journey. It was because you believed your effort mattered. You believed that what you were building had meaning. Meaning creates endurance. When people know why something matters, they become capable of enduring challenges that once seemed impossible. There is a difference between working hard and working with purpose. Hard work without purpose eventually becomes exhausting. Every obstacle feels unnecessary because there is no deeper reason attached to the effort. Purpose transforms that same effort into something meaningful. The work may still be difficult, but it no longer feels empty. This is why moments of failure should become moments of reflection instead of moments of surrender. Instead of asking, why am I failing? Ask yourself, why did I begin? That question reconnects you with the part of yourself that existed before fear entered the picture. It reminds you that your identity is bigger than your latest setback. Purpose also changes the way you interpret obstacles. Without purpose, obstacles appear as signs to quit. With purpose, obstacles become part of the process. They are no longer evidence that you chose the wrong path. They become opportunities to grow into the person capable of achieving what you set out to accomplish. Every meaningful achievement requires becoming someone different from who you are today. That transformation rarely happens during comfortable moments. It happens when life demands more patience than you thought you had, more courage than you believed you possessed, and more resilience than you ever expected to develop. Your purpose gives those painful moments context. It reminds you that growth is often hidden inside struggle. The people who inspire us most are rarely remembered because they had easy lives. They are remembered because they refused to let temporary hardship erase permanent purpose. They understood that setbacks could delay progress, but could never define destiny unless they chose to walk away. Reconnecting with your why is not something you do only once. It is a habit. It requires regular reflection because distractions are everywhere. Fear distracts you. Comparison distracts you. Criticism distracts you. Even success can distract you if it causes you to pursue recognition instead of meaning. Every now and then, you must pause long enough to remember what truly matters and why you chose this journey. Purpose also creates clarity when life becomes noisy. There will always be opinions telling you what you should do, how fast you should move, or what success should look like. If your decisions are based only on those voices, you will constantly change direction. But when your actions are guided by a clear purpose, outside opinions lose much of their power. You become less interested in proving yourself to others and more committed to staying faithful to what matters most. Your why does not eliminate fear. It gives fear less authority. It does not remove uncertainty. It gives uncertainty less control over your choices. It does not guarantee immediate success. It gives you a reason to continue long enough to create the success that cannot be built overnight. Every difficult season asks the same question in different forms. What is important enough for you to keep showing up? The answer is never found in comfort, applause, or convenience. It is found in purpose. It is found in the quiet conviction that your work matters, your growth matters, and the future you are building is worth every difficult step required to reach it. When life begins to unravel, it often feels as though everything is demanding your attention at once. Problems stack on top of each other. One challenge leads to another, and before long, your mind is carrying the weight of situations that seem impossible to manage. In moments like these, people often make the mistake of trying to control everything. They want certainty where none exists. They want immediate answers to questions that require time. They want to influence people, outcomes, and circumstances that are simply beyond their reach. The result is not greater control. It is greater exhaustion. One of the greatest shifts you can make is learning to separate what you can control from what you cannot. It sounds simple, yet it is one of the hardest disciplines to practice consistently. Your mind naturally gravitates toward uncertainty because uncertainty feels threatening. You replay conversations, imagine worst-case scenarios, and spend hours thinking about possibilities that may never happen. Meanwhile, the things you can actually influence are left waiting. Think about how often people lose sleep over someone else's opinion. They worry about being judged, misunderstood, or rejected. They try to manage how others perceive them, forgetting that every person sees the world through their own experiences and beliefs. No matter how carefully you explain yourself, you cannot force someone to understand you. You cannot make everyone agree with you. You cannot control what another person chooses to think. The same is true with unexpected setbacks. You cannot change yesterday's decisions. You cannot erase mistakes that have already happened. You cannot rewrite the past by thinking about it harder. Yet many people invest enormous amounts of emotional energy into battles that have already been lost. Every hour spent fighting the past is an hour taken away from building the future. Control begins with recognizing where your power actually exists. Your power exists in your choices. It exists in your attitude, your preparation, your habits, your response, and your willingness to keep moving despite uncertainty. Those may seem like small things compared to the problems you're facing, but they are the only things that consistently shape your future. Imagine standing in the middle of the ocean during a storm. You cannot command the waves to become smaller. You cannot tell the wind to stop blowing. But you can adjust your sails. You can change your direction. You can decide how you respond to the conditions around you. Experienced sailors survive storms not because they control the sea, but because they understand what is within their control. Life works in much the same way. There will always be unexpected events. Markets change, relationships evolve. Opportunities disappear. People disappoint you. Plans fall apart. None of those realities ask for your permission before they arrive. The question is never whether challenges will appear. The question is whether your attention will remain focused on what you can influence instead of what you cannot. Fear often convinces us that thinking more equals solving more. But constant worry is not productive thinking. Worry creates the illusion of action while keeping you completely still. It tricks you into believing that endless analysis is preparation, when in reality it often becomes avoidance. There is a difference between planning wisely and endlessly rehearsing disaster in your mind. This is why clarity matters. Every difficult situation presents two lists. The first list contains everything outside your control: other people's decisions, unexpected circumstances, past failures, economic conditions, and random events. The second list contains everything inside your control: your effort, your discipline, your honesty, your willingness to learn, your consistency, and your next decision. Most people spend their energy on the first list and wonder why they feel powerless. Strong leaders spend their energy on the second list because that is where progress begins. There is something remarkably freeing about accepting the limits of your control. It removes the impossible responsibility of trying to manage every outcome. Instead of carrying the weight of the entire future, you begin carrying only today's responsibilities. That shift reduces anxiety because it places your attention where it can actually make a difference. Discipline grows from this understanding. Every morning, you wake up with a choice. You can spend your energy reacting to everything happening around you, or you can invest your energy in the actions that move your life forward. You may not control whether people appreciate your work, but you control the quality of your work. You may not control how quickly success arrives, but you control whether you continue improving your skills. You may not control every opportunity, but you control whether you are prepared when an opportunity finally appears. History repeatedly shows that remarkable individuals focused less on outcomes and more on actions. They understood that outcomes are influenced by many variables, but actions belong entirely to them. They committed themselves to excellence in the areas they could influence and trusted that consistent effort would eventually produce meaningful results. This mindset also changes how you respond to setbacks. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" you begin asking, "What can I do right now?" That question shifts your attention away from helplessness and toward responsibility. Responsibility is empowering because it reminds you that even during difficult moments, you still have choices. Sometimes the next step is incredibly small. It may simply be making one phone call, sending one application, reading one chapter, having one honest conversation, or getting out of bed when everything inside you wants to stay there. Those actions may not solve every problem immediately, but they keep you connected to your ability to influence your own life. The human